All right. I'd like to say hello to everybody. Um, we're going to start off on another segment. This particular segment is called denial, resentment, anger, and fear. And these are the components, or should I say, this is what needs to be overcome in order to enter into the recovery process. Before I talked about the 12 steps, I talked about each step um, individually and how they benefit the individual. Uh, I defined addiction, talked about addiction, the difference between the addict and addiction. I talked about the addict is a man or a woman whose life is controlled by their primary symptom. And their primary symptom could be gambling, games of chance, sex, drugs, uh, alcohol. It could be fantasy. It could be, or any combination. It could be overeating. It could be working. Uh, Whatever the obsessive and compulsive addiction, whatever the obsessive and compulsive behavior is, and that's what make up the addiction. And what makes up addiction, like I just said, is obsessive and compulsive, total self-centered behavior. So now we're going to jump into the components, um, which is the denial, the resentment, the anger, and the fear. And these are also they are also, I would just say, like the main emotions that are expressed through the addiction: uh, resentment, anger, and fear. Now, one thing that the addict has is denial. Every addict, every addict, whether they're a drug addict or alcoholic or they into gambling, fantasy, games of chance, food, sex, fantasy, whatever it is, they're going to have a denial system. And the denial system is going to be complexed. Complex. And the purpose of the denial system is to protect the addiction. Is to protect the addiction and the addictive behavior, which is the symptoms. So when you dealing with or in your own quote unquote addiction, there is a system of denial, and a lot of times people look at denial as just like a something, like one thing, like in denial. But no, denial is a system, and then we're going to look at the system. What compose denial? What is denial composed of? And a lot of us that have experience in this area, whether we were in have whether we had our own addiction or we were connected to somebody else's addiction, we're going to take a look at that. So the first thing I want to cover is denial. And denial means simply contradiction and conflicting. Or when it's practiced by the addict, what it is just lying. Straight up, no chaser, lying. Because that's all contradiction and conflicting behavior is. It's nothing but lying. And they will have a reason. No matter how far their lives have been diminished. When I say their lives, especially their day-to-day living, no matter how diminishing or degrading this become, it's a reason for that. And the reason falls up under plausibility. And what does plausibility mean? It means that it is a believable lie. Just that simple. For example, you have to be to work at 8, but you get there at 9. And the boss say, Miss Jones, why are you late? And you say, excuse me, and you say, well, my alarm clock, something's wrong with it. It didn't go off. But what you fail to tell the person is that maybe you forgot to plug it in or put the batteries in or set the alarm. You didn't tell them that. You just said, well, it didn't go off. Now, it's believable. You know, that's believable. But you just said, well, my alarm didn't go off, and that's just just something really, really basic. You could say, I had a flat tire, but you could have had the flat tire the night before and didn't put no air in the tire. But they'll believe a flat tire because people have flat tires. So, in keeping this thing moving, when we talk about denial and plausibility, we're referring to a behavior where the addict or the addictive person has totally using certain rationalizations to justify what? Their addiction. And then I'm going to use another name for it. Their insanity. Right. Their insanity. Why? Because in step 2, it says that we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And understand that addiction is a power greater than oneself. And in some areas, addiction is looked at as a lifestyle. And it is a lifestyle. Addiction is a lifestyle of its own that a person lives day to day. It's like religion. Matter of fact, in my book, it is a religion. That's your religion. That's what you practice. You practice your primary symptom, you defend it, and you justify it. Now, understand this. When attacking I'm not going to say attacking, when confronting the addiction of another person or their lifestyle, be prepared. Be prepared for a lot of plausibility or plausible lies. Believable. And also a fight. Yeah. And understand this. If this is a loved one, if it's like your child, your best friend, co-worker, husband, wife, whatever that is, understand that the addiction is, that relationship is no longer a valid relationship because the lifestyle comes first. And that's why when I talked about in a previous video, a lot of us are recovering from the lifestyle. What I was also referring to is the addiction, because that's the addiction. Addiction is a lifestyle. It's a religion. It's all that. The person, they can go to church every 4-5 times a week. They can go to the mosque 4-5 times a week, make all 5 prayers and some. They can go to the synagogue. They can go to the yoga center. They can do all that. They can be prayed over, all that. But the bottom line, until the denial is broke, all that stuff is secondary. Because what the addict has to do, they have to rationalize their addiction. If they fail to rationalize their addiction, then what's going to happen? Now, let me back up and say this. Either they could fail to rationalize it, and then if they don't rationalize it, then they're confronted with another issue. They're faced with, number one, the truth and or honesty. Like I talked about before, there's a difference between telling the truth and being honest. When you're telling the truth, it's just a verbal statement. In that verbal statement, you could be admitting something or disclaiming something. Inside the honesty piece is a behavior that's the same. Well, it's a behavior that supplements the verbal admission. So for example, I say, well, yeah, I'm a sex addict. Now, I just admit it, but that don't mean I want to do something about it. I say, yeah, I'm an alcoholic. I just admitted it, but that don't mean I want to do something about it. I say, yeah, I'm a gambler. Yeah, I messes up pretty frequently. I could take the admission to that state, but don't mean I want to do nothing about it. However, honesty dictates that either I'm going to do something about it and move in one direction or don't do nothing about it. But usually, I'm going to do something about it when I get to that point, when the addiction is challenged. And the next phase of that, and the next phase of it is inside the denial process is when confronting one's, even your own addiction, and I'll call it what it is. When confronting your own addiction, be advised that confrontation or conflict can come up in between the other person, conflict between the addict and the other person that's confronted them. And like I said before, that's when a lot of the lies, the deceitful, the dishonesty is going to creep in. Because if the person if they want to continue their addictive behaviors, if they want to continue with their symptoms, man, they're going to tell you anything. And they're going to have you believing it. Your ass, you're going to be, they're going to tell you, look, they would tell you the sun is orange. And if you're not careful, they'll have you believing it. Yes, sir. And a lot of y'all that's listening know what I'm talking about. So in this case, a lot of times we have to leave that addict alone. Leave him alone. Leave him alone. Don't worry about the relationship because you ain't in no relationship no way. You in a situation. That's right. You're in a situation. And you're going to have to, and then you'll make a choice. Either to ride that situation out or leave the situation. But something's going to happen. Something's going to happen, especially if you are what's called codependent. In other words, you are taking care of that person. That's all codependency is. Codependency is taking care of using addict. Yeah. And I'm not saying this. I'm not saying, drop your partner, leave your son alone, leave your husband alone. None of that. I'm just saying that's the situation you're in, And see, when feelings and emotions are in the way, it'd be something that, the individual have to decide on their own. Because I'm going to say this. Everybody is involved with an addict somewhere along the line, even if it's you. Even if it's you. That's right. And we all codependent to certain people. It's certain people we just not going to let go. until the pain gets greater than the commitment. That's right. So looking at denial, understand that it is a complex system of deceitful, lying, and those types of behavior. And understand that this is what the person used to justify and rationalize their addictive behavior. Or this, and I'm gonna say this, their symptoms. Whether it's sex, gambling, food, games of chance, drugs, alcohol, working, fantasy. Fantasy is also a component of denial. Why? Why would fantasy be a component of denial? Fantasy is a component of denial because lies are extracted from fantasy. That's right. If you ever told a lie, it ain't no argument there. Fantasy is just something that's not real. What is a lie? That's right. Fantasy and lying is the same thing, but one got a cut on it. They put a cut on it. They mixed it with some Coca-Cola, some milk sugar. You know, they put some filler in the beef. Right? That's all it is, man. Men and women. So, and let me say this. Like I shared in another video, fantasy for most addicts was their first addiction. It was their first addiction. Believing that something was okay when it was really wrong, or something that was wrong when it was really okay. That's right. Fantasy usually steps in after some type of a trauma has occurred to the individual before their primary addiction was in play, or before it transferred to another primary addiction. And understand that fantasy is still connected to every addictive behavior. When I say denial, believe me, fantasy is right there. A person is fantasizing. If you're a gambler, you're fantasizing about hitting that lick. That's right. I'm going to hit that lick. I'm going to go to the casino. I'm going to play the blackjack table, and I'm going to kill them. I'm going to go to the slot machine. I'm going to pull that handle, and I'm going to empty them today. Fantasy brings on an euphoric feeling. Now understand, inside the recovery process, the addictive person is recovering at the level of what? Feelings and emotions. The alcoholic is recovering at what? At the level of feelings and emotions. The overeater is recovering at the level of what? Feelings and emotions. The sex addict is recovering at what? At the level of feelings and emotions. So until we can get the person to actually look at their feelings and their emotions, recovery is not possible. And because feelings can be so painful, the addict looks for something to make them what? Feel better. They need to feel good about something. So the primary symptoms are in play to make them feel better. And then once they run out of the source, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's sex or gambling, then they start doing what? They start going through withdrawals. And then the withdrawals hit emotionally, and they hit through the feelings. Then they transfer physical and mental and spiritual, and it don't necessarily have to be in this order. But what I will say is this. Spiritually, it's going to be the last thing that the person starts to recover in. That's right, spiritually. Spirit, and it's going to be the first to go when the person relapses. That's right. They spirit gone out the gate, as they say in Indianapolis, out the gate. That's right. So denial is contradicting and conflicting behavior and admissions. That's what it is. Another word for being dishonest. So let's go on to some other feelings and emotions, which the other three I talked about, resentment, anger, and fear. Because these are the areas that a lot of people are recovering from. And when I say a lot, I'm willing to say 100%. 100% of the people, once they get past the denial process, and you say, and I know this question might pop up. Somebody might say, "Hey man, how does a person get past denial?" Well, there are several ways. A person they can wake up one day and say, this has ruined my life. I'm better than this. I don't have to live like this anymore. And how they're talking about either all four levels or two of the four levels: mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional. They said, I ain't gotta live like this. And they could wake up and do that. And some people do. They wake up and say, shit, I can't do this no more. This is affecting my quality of life. This is affecting my spirituality. I'm not emotionally equipped to live this type of lifestyle anymore. So they'll stop. Some people have to go what we call to hit a bottom. They might have to lose everything. They might have to lose the house, the car, the kids, the husband, the wife, the dog, the cat, the rat, bank account, and some might even attempt suicide. That's how deep, that's how strong this denial process is. And so, until the person hit bottom to the point where they're willing to look at, to take a glimpse at where they're at in their life at that time, then what's happening is that they're not going to do what it takes to stop using or stop drinking. Got some coffee right here. Take a sip. So that's how the person will overcome their denial. Denial is not easy to overcome because what brings the emotions, what follows overcoming denial is shame and guilt. A lot of shame, a lot of guilt. And shame and guilt are powerful, powerful emotions. They're very powerful. They're so powerful that a person, I experienced this myself, first and second hand, that a person will say, yeah, these symptoms are killing me and they hurt me. And then when they start experiencing that shame and guilt, they say, well, I ain't ready to do nothing about this right now, but this is what's going on. And this is how relapse occurred too. Relapse occurred the same way. When a person started relapsing, they start experiencing shame and guilt, and it's overpowering, like in step 2, a power greater than themselves, and they stay in their insanity. And their insanity is the behavior of addiction, obsessive and compulsive. That obsessive and compulsive behavior wakes up again, and the person in turn becomes self-centered, and it's all about them. That's what's happening. So that's how a person, and there's nothing you can do. nothing anybody can do to the person to cause them to come to the reality. Let me take my headphones off. To cause them to come to the reality of their addiction. Nothing, ain't nothing you can say, nothing you can do. Because remember, denial is in full effect. Lying to themselves. And that's what they lying to. And their lying is there to defend their addiction, their addictive behavior. That's what it's there for. That's what denial is there for. It's there to defend it. And in the process of this denial, they have actually rationalized all the way up to murder. And I mean literally murder. They will rationalize why they had to murder somebody. Right. That's why in the jails, inside the jails and the prison, people that have been murdered, they've been murdered because of the lifestyle of addiction. Whether they was selling dope, using it, or whether they was different types of sexual encounters. Yeah. Addiction is at play. And so why Johnny didn't grow up like that? Sally, how'd she do that? Sally was under the influence of a power greater than themselves, mentally, physically, spiritually, and yes, sir, emotionally. Now, here's another thing. I don't care who that person is. I don't care what they do. They could be the preacher, the imam, the guru, one hell of a philosopher, and they might have those talents. But hear this and understand this. When their addiction is at play, when their obsessive and compulsive behavior is at play, all that's out the window. They ain't no preacher no more. They ain't no imam no more. They ain't none of that no more. They're an addict. That's what the hell they are. And they might have some of that charisma and all that other stuff that they're going to use on you inside that denial process. Yeah. So understand that. That's why in the recovery process, once the person starts recovering, that's why spiritually, they're going to recover. Spiritually, it's going to be the last thing that they're going to recover in, because they have to experience or go through certain emotions, certain feelings and emotions, meant on the mental, physical, and emotional level. That's why in recovery, it's said that we recover at the level of our feelings and emotions. We start getting them back again, and we start channeling them. Inside the spiritual area is we learn to apply spiritual principles. And it's those spiritual principles that we slowly start practicing, muscles we slowly start working, that we're able to connect to a power greater than ourselves, or a higher power. So we got to connect to a power greater than ourselves. And the power greater than ourselves are spiritual principles. I ain't going to say they God. They're spiritual principles. You know, a lot of people want to say it's God. All right, fine. I mean, you know, I'm saying from my perspective, first we got to learn how to practice, get in the practice of practicing spiritual principles. Love, charity, agape love, honesty, open-mindedness, willingness, forgiveness, stuff like that. Honor. Yeah. First, that's what you got to learn how to do, and then move on to something greater. So people so inside this modality, and I'm going to call it 12-step principles or the 12-step program a healing modality, because it is. Some people say it's 4, but I'm going to say it's 5 now. And inside this healing modality, the spiritual principles are the ultimate source of recovery. That's right. It ain't because you put some dope down or you put some food down, you stop overeating or you stop having sex, you stop gambling. It's not that. That only when you put your symptom down, that only set the stage for recovery, and another decision has to be made that you want to recover. You could just be running around here sober, clean and sober, clean from your symptoms and sober from your symptoms. Sure, but recovery is not automatic. It's a conscious decision that has to be made every day. And your awareness of the moment has to be brought up. All right, so moving on. I want to move on to resentment, anger, and fear. Unless these are the stumbling blocks of recovery. If these not addressed, recovery emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually will not happen. These three areas must be. And let me say this, resentment, anger, and fear are synonyms of each other, but they have certain things in common, but they have different components too. So we're going to take a look at it. And I'm going to start with resentment. What is a resentment? What is a resentment? So I'm going to tell you like an old timer told me, and this is what I run with in my program, when I practice my program. Resentment is reliving a past anger as if it happened today. And what is past? I'll say 3 months. But if you want to put 90 days on it, fine. But I would say at least 3 months. That means something happened 3 months ago, and you live in it, and it made you angry. You got angry. Person stepped on your foot 3 months ago, and you got angry because they stepped on it, and you live in it just like it happened today. 3 months till how many years you want to go back? 20, 30, 40, 50, 60? Yeah, because people are resentful like that. So that's a resentment. So your resentments have to be looked at. And so some definitions that I picked up for resentment is bitterness, a mixture of disappointment, disgust, anger, and fear. Ill will. And what is ill will? Ill will is close to hate. That means you damn near hate a person. And you wish, and if something happened to them bad, you really couldn't care. And you might be the one that do it. And it's hateful. And I remember when I was coming up, they used to, the older adults, they used to use that term. He's a very hateful person. She's a very hateful person. And resentment is a very strong emotion. So, like I said, going back, resentment is an anger from 3 months, anywhere from 3 months to past. If you're still mad about something for 3 months to how many years back, then you in resentment status. And I was reading in a psychology magazine about maybe a month or so ago, and the question, it was on TV, and the question that was asked to the psychiatrist, they was talking about people being angry, and they said anger lasts 3 minutes. They said if you angry more than 3 minutes about a situation, you're really not angry anymore. That emotion only runs 3 minutes, because at some point, I guess some type of sanity kicks in. So let's look at anger. The next one is anger. And check out what they said anger meant. Vexed. You know what vexed mean? That means when I read vexed, it brought up voodoo, some type of being under the influence of a negative spirit, annoyed, indignant, displeased, provoked. Then it said resentful and furious. Now remember I said earlier, when I brought up the topics of resentment, anger, fear, I said they're all connected. However, they have their own sub categories. And then the next one is fear. Okay, and anger, when you're angry in the moment. So I'll say anywhere between 3 months and up to right now in the present. Anger is in the present, basically the present. You know, somebody stepped on your toe. You mad because they stepped on your gators and stuff. You know, in Detroit, we don't like nobody stepping on our gators. I done seen people got beat up real bad because they done stepped on somebody's gators or picked up somebody's alligator purse wrong or something like that. So the next one is fear. And fear is in the future. And the future could be anywhere from I would say 20 minutes from now to hell, all the way up to how far forward you want to go. So the recovering person, we recover at the level of resentment. A person in recovery recovers at the level of feelings and emotions. And the ones that we deal with is resentment, anger, and fear, because these are the ones that fuel addiction. You either mad at what somebody done, you either resentful at what somebody did to you, you angry at what somebody did for you, and it caused you to have fear of the future. That's right. And that's what we believe in the in most recovering communities. So these are the things that I have to go and I have to look back at. I have to look at my resentment. Why am I resentful about something? And then the emotions behind my resentment. Because like I said, emotions are powerful. How those emotions affect my spirit. How they affect my spirit. How do they affect me physically, mentally? Because a person can go insane over some stuff. That's right. The loss of a loved one. You know, I knew somebody that lost one of their parents, right, to a murder. Yeah, they lost one of their parents to a murder. And the person that murdered their parents, they lived with that, I'm talking about, for years. And then eventually, and it was like every day, the person would talk about the situation surrounding their parents and this here murder. And how they was disgusted at it. And how they were angry and felt bitter. And that bitterness ate them up. Yeah, that bitterness ate them up. And see, that bitterness and disappointment and disgust is so painful. You know, a person want to what? Use something to ease the pain. So when you start treating your feelings and your emotions without a doctor, at least, psychiatrist, you let the streets treat it, or you over treat it, then you can get sick. Simply saying. Anger. You know, some people, man, they like being angry. I mean, look, I done heard people say, I can't wait to cuss that person out. If somebody, now here's a good one. If somebody say this to me, I'm going to cuss them out. You already know what you're going to do. So in other words, you can't wait to cuss a person out. If they do this to me, I'm going to cuss they behind out. Yeah. And fear, I don't know, man. Fear will paralyze I mean, it's different types of fear. It's the type of fear that make you run and hide. It's the type of fear that will paralyze the individual, cause them not to move. They won't move. You know, it's the type of fear that people lie. They'll lie. You know, you ask your kid, you know what? I mean, who ate up all the ice cream? I didn't. And they the only child. They the only child. I didn't eat that ice cream up. Yeah, yes, you ate that. But somebody else, did you let somebody in the house? No, I ain't let nobody in the house. Yeah, you ate that ice cream then. So, and recapping this a little bit and going back, in order to enter the recovery process, the denial must be confronted. And we of our own selves cannot make another person by no means come out of their own denial. It's something that has to be done by the Creator or by themselves. They have to have their own experience. And the experience, it could be anywhere from mild to very painful. But whatever that experience is, it'll put a certain amount of fear in that person when they even think about engaging in their primary symptom or symptoms. Because usually in addiction, the addict does not suffer from one particular symptom. It's going to be two or more. And I don't care if they're alcoholic, a drug addict, a sex addict, a gambling addict / chance taker, engaging in fantasy. It's gonna manifest some type of way, and that's what I say. It's gonna manifest in the physical form. Physical form is gonna be the manifestation of the obsessive and the compulsive behavior. Inside the recovery process, should the person decide to get past their addiction, and they decide to enter into the recovery process, what usually happens, they start feeling a little better. Then as they feel better, they start looking a little better. Then they emotionally start coming together mentally. Mentally, the obsessive and compulsive thinking and behavior begin to subsist slowly. Slowly. And it takes time. Some people think that because, they ain't had a drink or engaged in some of their addictive behaviors for 2-3 months, they're all right. Oh, no. I say this, man, you need at least a year. Because addiction, the lifestyle of addiction is so cunning and baffling. It's cunning and baffling. It'll have you thinking that you somewhere you really ain't. It'll have you doing, because you done something, it'll have you thinking you're on top of something. The next thing you know, you engaging in your symptoms full throttle, more than you were when you left off. Yeah. So anyway, I'm about to wrap this up. Understand that in recovery, we recover mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And that's how the disease of addiction will affect you. Understand that addiction is a lifestyle. It is a lifestyle. Let me say it again. Addiction is a lifestyle. And it's called addictive behavior. And it's seen as obsessive and compulsive behavior. And it's protected by denial. Denial is this protection. It's rationalization of whatever that person is doing. And that person is, I swear to God, when I hear this, they'll say, that's not them. That's not, damn it, it's them. And people say, that wasn't me. That wasn't me. Well, who was it? They look like you. It's like me. I can't say that all that stuff I did wasn't me. Damn it, that was me. I did all of it. Yes, I did. And I'm going to say this, right? Until the individual admit that that was them, they prone to do it again, and that sets put into play what's called in relapse what is it called when you make a date with something? Reservation. You got a reservation. I had to claim responsibility from everything I did in my active addiction. And when I say active addiction, I mean more than when the symptoms were at play. Yeah, the symptoms let me know that my disease is active, but then there's other phases of active addiction. And one phase is the behavior. I cannot have nothing, but I could behave like, in AA it's called a dry drunk. I could be on a dry drunk. I ain't had nothing to drink, but I act like I'm drunk. In NA, they just call it you act like you high. You know what I'm saying? You just behave like you on one. Or they'll say he's on one. She's on one. Yeah. So understand until I what is called surrender without no reservation, surrender. And when I surrender, that means that I have no excuses, plausible or not. Plausible. There's no expert excuses about what it is that I'm, about my behavior. Yeah, none. There's none at all. And understand, until I deal with my denial on my own, because your loved ones, your preachers, your imams, you've been prayed over, your psychiatrists, your kids, none of that will never be able to convince you that you got a problem. Only you. And like I said, some of us gonna have to lose everything. Everything. Your dreams is taken away from you. You won't even be able to dream. You're gonna lose everything. House, cat, rats, dogs, dreams. That's why one piece of literature, what it says about being in the recovery program, it says, our dreams awaken. We get our dreams back. Mug, you get your dreams back in recovery. Not only that, because addiction takes your dreams. That's all it is a dream. It ain't even a dream. Like my man say, it's a nightmare. You dealing with a nightmare, Jack. And the nightmare is you. Another thing I want to reiterate. Until I'm able to admit and look myself square in the face and say that everything I did. I can't say it was the dope, it was the sex, it was the alcohol, it was the gambling, it was the fantasy. I had to say it was me. I done that. I done it all. It was me. Because that's what denial is. Denial is blaming. It's a blame game. It's not taking responsibility. I had to take away, just like in my recovery, I had to accept responsibility for my own recovery. Because recovery, check this out, ain't always good. It's not. Sound good. Yeah, I got a new car. I got a new house. I just got married. I got all this money. But what about the responsibility that comes with all that? The new house, the kid, I got my kids back. Really? Chill. Really? Yeah, and then people clap. Yeah, got my kids back. Yeah, got a new car. Got a car note and some insurance. Got a house note. Yeah, I got married. You got another personality to deal with. Yeah, that's what, if you really want to talk about it, you got another personality. Now I don't run to the meetings no more and say I got married. Hell no. I ain't doing that one. Y'all ain't gonna get me again. Oh yeah. How many is this? Yeah, so but recovery is great, man. Recovery is great. It's a challenge and it's great. I mean, it's the best thing I done did, because I've been through, as a person in recovery, I've worked on my resentments, and I worked on some of my anger, and I worked on some of my fears, and I understand how I think in the plausible area. And check this out. I understand how my denial system works. I know when I'm in denial about something. But I understand this. If I stay in denial too long and I start believing that stuff, I set myself up for relapse. Because, see, check this out. Denial is nothing but a reservation at some point in the recovery phase. I had to learn how to come out of denial, man, and start accepting responsibility of my good and my bad and my in-between. That's what makes a person stay in recovery. I ain't talking, and then don't pick up. Yeah, because what happens is, if I start denying stuff and that emotional pain start kicking in, that spiritual pain start kicking in, that mental pain start kicking in, physically I'm going to pick up, it's going to manifest. Yeah. That's why inside the recovery process, man, I had to do another thing, stay in reality. Because why? When I'm in denial, that means one of my first addictions, which is called fantasy, is done kicked in. Yeah, I had to watch out about fantasy, about fantasizing too much. And what is fantasy? Fantasy for me is looking at something that's unrealistic for me. Now that's deep, because one part of having a goal is imagining that it's there, that you could do that. Like somebody said, if I could see it in my mind's eye, I could do it. But here's the deal with that. I know it's fantasy when I'm not willing to do the work. If you ain't willing to do the work, damn it, it's fantasy. All your ass is doing is daydreaming. And if you're in recovery, get ready to get high, go to jail. Yeah. See, let me say this one thing about this recovery thing, and I got to start winding down. One thing about people in recovery that makes us unique, we must deal in reality. At some point, I mean, we could, fake it a little bit, but we're the type of people, we have to, in order to maintain recovery, we have to be real about certain things, and we have to maintain or do a maintenance, a daily maintenance If it's not mentally, it has to be on some paper about what it is we thinking, and we still got to talk to somebody else about it. And now one of our friends. And understand this. Inside the recovery process, if you ain't your friend, you ain't got no friend. You your friend. And just like you had a system, a support system in your addiction full of friends that suffered the same addiction as you did, you got to have some people in recovery. And a lot of times it ain't going to be people that you like. You better start calling up people you don't like, who you think you don't like anyway. Yeah. So where does recovery take us? Health-wise, make sure you got a doctor. Emotional and mentally, make sure you got a doctor. Spiritually, make sure you got a doctor. And all four of them, understand you need maintenance. There must be maintenance. After you have knocked down or fractured your wall of denial, understand that wall, those bricks of denial could easily float back up if you don't continue to take maintenance on your denial. Addiction is no joke. Heck no, it's not. So in this topic, I put denial first because that's the first thing the individual must, that's a must. You must get past the denial and look at your own individual denial system and understand how it works. And then check this out. Part of that comes on for accepting responsibility for your recovery. And understand, for your disease and your recovery, but understand, you are not responsible for your alcoholism. You're not responsible for your disease of addiction, but you are responsible for your recovery. Once you come out of the denial phase. And when I say responsible, dig this. This is what I mean when I say you're not responsible. Because how you got the addiction, how you started on alcoholism may not came from you. It may not started with you. It could have started from another place. You could have saw your mom and them doing it. Because I remember what our family did on the 4th of July. I know what our family did on Christmas. I know what our family did on them holidays. When I was little, we sat around and watched them get drunk, high. And when they did that, they did other stuff. They did other stuff. And some people hurt people. Yes, they did. Why? Because they was hurt. And what do hurt people do? Well, hurt people hurt people. So I'm going to wrap this up, right? And winding this thing down, talking about denial, getting with your resentments, getting with your anger, and getting with your fear. Look at how you use lying, plausible lying. Look at your fantasies. The individual addicted person got to look at their because their fantasies feeds the addiction, which is the obsessive and the compulsive behavior. Right. So anyway, if you like this, give me a comment at the bottom. I'm going to be putting out some more videos. My email is ss2728@netzero.net. That's ss2728 netzero.net. You can email me. Understand this. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a therapist. I'm just a recovering person, a day at a time. That's me. My name is SUNI. Last name is SAMI. And I'll be posting another I'll be posting another video soon. If you got anything you want to hear me talk about, shoot me an email on it or put it in the comments down there, and I will. I'm accepting all criticism. Please criticize. Because, see, here's another thing. The person in recovery, they're going to accept some criticism. I'm saying the person that's doing quality recovery, they're going to be able to take that. And if I'm doing something good, pat me on the back. I'm for that too. Anything that good that came out of this presentation, it was from a power greater than myself. Anything that was confusing, that was bad, that was me, and I'll work on that. I'd like to say thank y'all. Thank y'all for your time. Remember, recovery is a day at a time. Recovery is a day at a time in the work. Can I hear it for the recovering people? Thank you.